Welcome to Yoga for You, a channel tailored to helping you discover your very own unique yoga practice. Welcome back to the Sagacity Spotlight. Today's guest is Matt Finelli, great friend and great guided meditation teacher. In this talk, we discuss shamanism. We talk about teaching guided meditation. We talk about the incredible, beautiful, and unpredictable way the universe always has our back. He is wise beyond his years with stories that will make you feel supported, guided, trusted, and loved. Stick around through all of this for all of his wonderful insights. We hope to see you on the next one. Please comment anything below you wish to share or ask. We will be watching and answering. So much love. Namaste. Hey everybody, welcome back. My name's Ty. Today I'm joined with the incredible Matt Finelli. He's a guided meditation guru. He has been practicing yoga and meditation for 12 years, and he's going through a major transition in his life. We invited him on today to chat with him a little bit about that. So Matt, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hey everybody, thank you so much for having me here today. Love it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun little conversation. You're going through some stuff,
Yeah.
huh? You just got accepted into something big.
Well, first off, it's always a exciting, fun conversation when we got Ty Dobbs on the other end of it. But yeah, I recently just got accepted to a graduate program for getting a doctorate in clinical psychology, which is something I'm really excited about because I've been taking a very meandering path in studying consciousness and the human experience, and have been really diving deep into meditation since I was an undergrad. And it's something that continuously blossoms and unveils all of these different aspects of ourselves, but also how we can relate to people, and how do we deepen our spiritual side. So it's one of those things that just the more you dive into it, the deeper the profundity we find. It's
Yes,
cool.
indeed. And I think
Yeah.
it's really cool how you can take what would be considered an esoteric or very high vibe understanding and still find a way to root it into the scholarly world. You're going about it, and I've always admired this about you. You're going about it at such a bridging way. It's really cool. How can you speak on the importance of that right now in today's modern world?
Yeah, well, I think one of the exciting times now is that our society, I think, is getting ready to bridge that spiritual and scientific space, because the bridge does need to happen. Science in and of itself is an amazing tool for exploring the physical material world, and our spiritual exploration is a very real thing too, and exploring the non-material world, and acknowledging that there is a immaterial world that is going on in our mind space all the time, and even beyond that. So it's really cool. I think one of the beautiful moments that we have in this time period, I was born in 1990, and the internet was like really rolling out, I feel like, in the 2000s, and where Google could really like bring up a lot of information. You're like, oh wow, I'm starting to see how this might be a tool that I could take advantage of. And it's allowed us to kind of dive into a bunch of cultural puzzles and patterns of information that we haven't been able to dive into in the past as easily. Like, we'd have to go to a library and see the Bhagavad Gita sitting on a shelf and say, I'm going to read that. We could, it's so easy now to order any book that you want whenever you want it. And just like finding information about different spiritual cultures. So my practice has always been trying to figure out what are all the possible perspectives that people are looking in on our existential problems from being humans, and then how do we create an amalgamation like a practice that is an amalgamation of all of those spiritual practices combined into one thing. What is our human urge? I think Aldous Huxley wrote like a really beautiful book, The Perennial Philosophy. Like, what is our philosophy as a human that incorporates all of our human urges and yearnings? And one of those things that brought me very close was studying shamanism. And the shaman's job is to bridge the physical and the non-material. And what's interesting is I spent some time down in the Amazon rainforest, and now I feel like I'm in position back here to kind of do that, to bridge the spirituality and the science into one, so that people can come and get like a real holistic understanding of our being. We're more than just meat and bones, you know?
Absolutely. And yeah, you're doing it entirely. What would you say in your experience and your research thus far has been some of the key factors of what you believe that us humans should consider a little bit more frequently than we do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I our current culture is obsessed with identity, and we're obsessed about defining ourselves and putting these labels on ourselves, and we're not really very understanding of what those labels do to us when we apply those to ourselves. So, you know, people identify themselves by the car that they drive and the clothes that they wear and the careers that they are living and their social status, the amount in their bank account, just like all of these. I like, what are my education credentials? Just everyone's creating these identities, like even religious identities, political identities. The list goes on and on and on and on. And we've divulged as a society into the state of tribalism, where anything like red versus blue, just like any kind of tribal mentality that we have is tearing us apart. And what we really have to do is start dropping these identities that we've constructed and asking ourselves, well, are we really that? Because there's a lot more. There's a lot more. If we slow everything down and we start erasing some of these identities that we've constructed. Like my family, for instance, is Italian. And if you stop and like think, like, what does that even mean? Like, the word Italian is really representing a geography in the world that my ancestors came from. But is that like real? Or is that like just a human thing? Like, if we zoom out more and more and more and more, and we continue zooming out, we see that we're really like the earth moving. Like, we're really the earth. If we zoom out and we're in the International Space Station and we look down, the only thing we're seeing is earth. And earth is the thing that's living in all of these earthly forms. And earth is moving through all the humans, and it's moving through all the trees, and it's moving through all the water and the streams, and it's breathing with the wind, and it's, you know, raining, and it's snowing, and it's doing all of these life things. And if we were able to reframe ourselves and say, I'm earth in the form of a human, then we get somewhere. Because then we start looking at other people, and we're like, oh, that's earth in the form of Ty Dobbs.
Yes.
Ty Dobbs. And then we're like, oh, this is earth in the form of Matt Finelli. Hi, earth in the form of Matt Finelli. Oh, there's earth in the form of that tree. There's earth in the form of everything becomes me. Everything on earth. If I'm actually earth in the form of Matt Finelli, then everything that I'm interacting with is a form of me in a different form. Then I start engaging with those things as if I'm engaging with my hand that I've identified as attached to my body. And I tell people, like, many of us have kept our 10 fingers. And why? Like we say, like, oh, these fingers are a part of us. So I want to take care of these fingers. I'm not just going to lob one off because pinkies are short.
Yeah, maybe not the best idea.
Yeah.
But that's important because it is perspective. I mean, everything about what you're saying is perspective. It's shifting that um, internal view to the external understanding. You know, travel can do that for a lot of people too. Travel can help people understand, oh, on the other side of the world, in France, in Africa, in anywhere in Asia, people are living very similar lives in their own ways, with their own culture, with their own language. But the premise is the same. The city infrastructure is the same. The reason for being is the same. The reason for loving is the same. The families are the same. It's all the same. And that comes from this beautiful word that can be summarized in perspective. But
Mm-hmm.
you've got that experience in the down in the South America. Do you care to elaborate a little bit more about that experience down there and what it meant for you?
Yeah. Well, I was able to spend some time down in the Peruvian Amazon, and I was apprenticing under this Havara shaman to study ayahuasca and wachuma and other plant medicines in the jungle. And for me, that was one of the most life-changing experiences that I had ever experienced, because it was something that I wanted to do since I was in middle school. I always thought that living in the middle of the Amazon jungle with like a tribal village was like the pinnacle of adventure. And it was one of those things where I never had a specified time on when I was going to do it. I just knew I wanted to, at some point, experience the thick of the Amazon. And when I was going on this wild adventure, and I was kind of moving through through the United States beforehand as a model, and I was going to all these places, and while I was going to these places, I was developing these regenerative mental health facility communities, teaching people meditation, equipping them with mental health practices to equip themselves with, so that they could take control over their own mental health. And I had found over time, through studying all these various cultures, that by studying these various cultures, it helps to really gain like you're saying, like gain perspective of all these different spaces. And one of the things that I found important when I was studying like Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, shamanism, paganism, that the farther we moved back, it seemed the closer people were to nature. And nature is an incredible teacher, but it doesn't speak in English. It speaks in these patterns, and it speaks in, I call them like patterns of information, symbols and signals and these things. But shamanism is really interesting because they'll utilize these plant teachers like ayahuasca or wachuma, and the plants themselves contain this sort of energy. And in shamanism, they say they contain a spirit. And when you ingest this plant, its spirit comes into you, and its consciousness combines with your consciousness to create this elevated, heightened space. So back in the day, I started realizing cannabis was a powerful tool that could be used to heighten and elevate meditations. And then I started noting that there were other plant medicines like psilocybin mushrooms or other psychedelic compounds that, when it was done with the correct intention, and it had you really had an intention going in, and a setting, and everything was correct. It can utilize this space for really profound introspection into aspects of our lives, like our past, or energies that we're holding with ourselves. And so as I studied shamanism more, I was like, now I have to go to the Amazon and study with a shaman. And during my meditations, I had constantly asked myself, when should I go down to Peru? When should I go down to Peru? And I was kind of building out this space, architecting this mental space for my highest, wisest self. And I would go into a place during my meditations where my mind would just stop and my body would be still and nothing would be there. And it would be a blank canvas. And I'd say, highest, wisest self, when do I need to go to Peru? And it said, like, I would just wait and see what thought was the first thought that appeared in my brain. And whenever I did that, it would always say, you will know when to go when there appears to be no other path forward. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
this is a little bit ominous. So I kept on like sitting with, and over years, like 7 years of doing that, I was in New York and I didn't get signed to a modeling agency like I had planned, but I'd move out there. My girlfriend of 5.5 years at that time broke up with me, and I thought I was going to marry her. And then I ran out of money, and I had like less than $160 in my bank account in New York, and New York like eats you up. That will fly out the window in a few days. And so I was so stressed out, and I was going through one of the darkest times of my life. And while I was meditating on the whole experience and going like, why am I here? Like, I'm in New York. Like, number one, I love nature. There's not any nature in New York City. So I was like, why am I here? And then all of a sudden, you will know when to go, and there appears to be no path forward. And I was like, I lost my girlfriend. I lost my job / career. I lost my all my money. Like, what am I going to do? And once I realized that, I was like, oh, now's my time. Now's the time to go to Peru. And I was like, it's all gonna happen. And the next day I call up my friend, who is like the most adventurous person in the world that I know. And she's constantly going on all of these like badass trips. Like, she'll climb up a mountain. She was just in the documentary where she climbed up a mountain in Jordan and then paraglided off of it.
Oh my gosh, that's living right there. That's crazy.
Yeah. My friend Kaylee Carlson, she's absolute badass. And so I call up Kaylee and I'm like, Kaylee, I need to go on an adventure. Where are you going next? And she's like, well, I'm thinking about going to British Columbia in Canada, and then driving from there down to Peru. And I was like, no way. I was like, that is exactly where I want to go. Let's make this happen. And so we started putting together this project called the Ruta Project. We were going to interview people all the way down and kind of get these cultural stories all the way through from these different areas that we passed through and things like that. And we did 6 months of, and then, sorry, but I got too far ahead. 2 days after my meditation, I realized I'm going to go down to Peru. One of my agents in Miami called me and said, Matt, you know that guy who hasn't paid you in 1.5 years? Well, he just paid. Here's $4,000. And I was like, yeah.
Wow. That's it right there.
Oh my God. I was like, that's going to be enough to get me down there. Let's fucking go.
That's the power of trust. That's the power of trust right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So like all these things, just the synchronicity of this event. I realized I need to be in Peru, and then suddenly my friend Kaylee is planning a trip down to Peru and wants me to come, and then an agent comes along and says, "Oh, you don't have any money? Well, here's some money." And like that's the whole story is just filled with these kind of events. Like I went down, I had planned for 6 months to drive down with Kaylee. All of a sudden she had something happen in her family that she had to pull out. And then so I was like, okay, I'm still going. And I go down, and I've been planning with this shaman to train under him in Terapoto for 6 months. And when I got to Cusco, I was doing the whole Cusco thing for 10 days, exploring around Cusco. And 2 days before I'm about to leave for Terapoto, after 6 months of planning, I realized one of the locals, after telling me, had told me that Terapoto is considered the highland jungle and not the Amazon. Like technically the Amazon. And I was like, well, I don't want an asterisk on like the trip of my life. And so 2 days before I'm about to go, I cancel $500 worth of plane tickets and my 6 months of planning with the shaman. And I decide to go into Iquitos, which is like a hub for shamanism, and it's the biggest, most remote city in the world, and it's not very big. Meaning, and that means like you have to either boat there or fly there to get there.
Wow.
So it's in northeast of Peru. I go up there, and I'm like, I'm going to full faith walk around this city until I find a shaman. And I walked around for 5 days, and I was asking all these locals, like, who's a reputable shaman around here? And on day 5, the guy, this shaman named Don William shows up, and he's got this big smile on his face, and he goes in Spanish, I just came by boat from my village 3.5 hours into the Amazon jungle. I've been teaching as an ayahuasquero for 50 years, over 50 years. And he's from a Havaro shaman lineage, and he sang me some Icaroses, which are these whistling sounds that they do. And
dude, they're so entrancing. I remember, oh my goodness. Yes, please continue.
Oh, they're super entrancing. And when you hear them on ayahuasca, there is this massive explosion in the visual experience, and everything is just, it's fascinating to kind of understand this whistle that has an actual spiritual impact on the experience that you're living. And so we go by boat for 3.5 hours. We actually take 2 days to get there. We stopped halfway in another village, and on the way we saw pink dolphins, and it was one of the most incredible things that I've ever seen. It was everything that I dreamt it would be. And it was just, we would do ayahuasca like every other day. And usually when people go there, they do, 1 or 3 ceremonies, because they say that one ayahuasca ceremony is like a lifetime of therapy. But during my stay there, I ended up doing 15 ayahuasca ceremonies.
Wow.
and 5 Wachuma ceremonies, and went through the whole gamut of experiencing these dying ceremonies where it simulated me dying of heat stroke, and I thought I was absolutely dead or on the way to dying. And then I had just the pinnacle experiences where I was in this, I called it the multicolored vortex of infinity, where everything is this swirling, beautiful cosmic spirit event thing. And you can see these entities popping up and giving you wisdom, and it was just absolutely wild. It was so wild, and really beautiful, loving events too that were coming from these ceremonies. And the entirety of it is so deep and enriching. You can't help but leave a changed person.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like every single turn. I mean, just the series of events that led to the arrival, or the potential of the arrival, was magnificent enough. That should have just let you know right then and there what you're in for. And it sounds like it
Mm-hmm.
lived up to every bit of that anticipation.
Yeah, it was so wild. And what's going back to what you were originally saying, with all these cultures with varying information patterns, these people in the jungle didn't have running water or electricity. They were growing their food, they were finding it from the jungle, and they were happy as can be. There was one guy who I remember talking to, who's about 76. And he goes, "Oh, I went to the big city once. I lived there for a stretch of about 5 years, 8 years." And and then he realized, like, what am I doing here? Like, I have everything that I could ever want out here. Out here is paradise. And it's beautiful because the jungle provides for them. It also provides like swarms of mosquitoes at 7 p.m. But that, it's a pretty great place.
Yes, of course. Of course. I
Yeah.
think it's just symbolism for, like you said, nature is about symbols, and I love that you said that. But that's on a very focused scale, but the universe provides on the same macro scale
Mhm.
to all of us anytime. That receptivity has to be finely tuned, though, to be able to receive those blessings,
Mhm.
which is a challenge.
Absolutely. And one of the things I like to tell people, remind people, is that we have lived a life up until this point, both you and I, Ty, where every time we're thirsty, we've always got enough water. And every time we're hungry, we've always got enough food. And we've always had enough shelter, even if we had to sleep outside. And it's this world, we came into it with absolutely nothing. Zero. We didn't say, "Hey, I'm going to pay $5,000, $1 million to embody myself in a human for a lifetime." We just showed up, and now we're here. We showed up with nothing, and we've gotten this given to us. This whole experience has been given to us on the house. So that's a pretty special and exciting thing, even if some of the things that were given to us were kind of not gifts, not things that we wanted, but those
True.
did shape us. And it's put us on a specific path. And now we're here. And now we've always been given everything. So it's something to reflect on when we're feeling like there isn't enough, or we are looking fearfully into the future or something like that. We can always say, we've always had enough to get us to this point that we're at in here right now. So how do we sit in that ease and then engage the life, knowing that we will have enough to get us through this life?
That is it. That is the most beautiful, simplified reflection of abundance I think anyone could hear. And I'm so grateful you put it out there just like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the world is abundant.
Yes,
You
it
know?
is. I want to switch over a little bit to ask you a general question. What does, we talked a little bit before, you've been involved with yoga or some meditation practices for nearly 12 years now, but what does yoga mean to you?
So yoga is it's a beautiful, beautiful tradition. And what a lot of people don't know about yoga, especially coming from our culture, is we view yoga as a workout that is composed of a bunch of stretching. And when we look at yoga as a spiritual tradition, it goes far, far beyond the actual poses and the exercise. It can be great exercise, but yoga means as a word to yoke or union. And that begs the question, union with what? What do you mean union?
There it is. There it is. Keep going.
Yeah. And the union that they are referring to is a union of oneness, of one being. We could say union with life. Life is this flow of many changing and challenging poses. And we put ourselves in all of these positions. And we are walking through life going me versus everybody, me versus everybody, me versus everybody. And when we do that, we're putting ourselves in opposition to the entirety of what is. And what is the entirety of what is? Life, God, the universe. All of these things become mostly that. Like most of what exists is not us, is not the us that we're designating as us. So we're really saying everything but this human body is like against me. And we separate ourselves from it. And that could really be said of like in the Judeo-Christian religions, like what the original sin was. The original sin is this idea that our self, our version of self has gotten so small that now we think our version of self is about the size of a human body. But in yoga, yoga is about this union with God, with life. And how do we create a yoga flow that has all these different poses, but it's still one flow? And so yoga is a transcendent philosophy. And it goes beyond just exercise. So it's a mindset. Like, how do I treat Thai when, again, I know Thai is a version of myself? If I'm saying, oh, Thai version of myself, Thai version of Earth, and I am Earth, or Thai version of the universe, and I am the universe, I am part of the universe. Like, we are all part of the universe. Now I know how to treat Thai. I'll treat him like I'm treating myself. If I see Thai as another YouTuber that I need to compete with because I want to be the only person on YouTube talking about yoga, like then it creates a separation where we are doing the same things and shooting towards the same goals, but now we're trying to ruin the other one. And
Yeah.
so we're in this competitive style of living instead of a collaborative style of living. And that's, again, going back to all this tribalized mindset that we're living in now. We're going from all these competitive games to hopefully more collaborative games. I hope that is where our society is leading. And I think this big spiritual wake up moment that everyone is talking about, and has been talking about for the longest time is coming from this dearth of direct connection or a direct contact spirituality, like experiencing it directly instead of believing something or having faith in an idea. Like, yoga is a great way to gain direct contact with spirituality. Shamanism is a great way to have direct contact with spirituality. Buddhism is a great way to have direct contact with spirituality. You can experience it firsthand. You don't need to take anyone's word for it. You can literally do the practices and have a direct experience with spirituality. And that's what makes it so cool.
Yeah. Wow. That's very well worded, all encompassing answer. But that's the essence of what I seek that this channel can provide as well. It provides people with the clarity that it is exactly whatever they need when they need it the most. And you are a perfect representation for how that has, interwoven itself into your life. I've had the extraordinary pleasure of being guided in one of your cannabis meditations, and just very few words can actually describe the profundity of what it was and the experiences that followed. For people who are learning or wanting to get into meditation and are maybe a little bit scared about sitting with their mind for even 5 minutes, a couple breaths, what advice would you have for anybody who is looking to take that leap into, the silence of their own mind?
Mm. Well, I have good news for all the people who might be feeling that way. The mind is most dangerous when we are scared of it and then not doing anything about it. If we're scared to sit alone with our thoughts are already harming us. And
Yes. Wow.
if we don't want to we actually do want to sit alone in our silence. Like, the silence is saving us from the thoughts. And if we can go there, then we're actually in a safer space. But if we say, oh my God, my mind is a creepy place, I'll just pretend that it's not on fire. Like, if you pretend your house is not on fire, it's still burning. So what we want to do is say, oh, I feel anxious at the idea of just sitting alone for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Hopefully you can get to 20. Because 20 is the lowest amount of time for the most amount of benefit, is what science has said. What we really want to do is unwind our mind. A lot of people are very well aware that if you want to get big muscles, then you got to go to the gym. You got to do some exercise. You got to move. And unfortunately, we found ourselves in a spot where people aren't making a direct, or they aren't aware that meditation is the gym for your mind. The good news is you don't have to pay a gym fee. You can just
Yes.
sit and be with your mind, and your mind will work itself out. But you have to be brave enough to sit down and do the initial steps. Nothing that you're going to find in there is going to cause you any more pain, because it's already there. It's already existing there. So you're already at your most dangerous level right now, doing nothing about it. Once you do something about it, you release these energies from the body. We're in the state of releasing. People are always asking, what can meditation give me? It's not about what it gives you, it's about what it releases from you. Once you release these fears or these anxieties, these worries, these depressed thoughts, these pressures to be more than I am, or to succeed, or to fulfill some sort of identity structure that we've built for ourselves. All of these things we slowly pick away. We pick away. We pick away. And we might sit down at first and go, oh my God, I have a million things I want. A million things I want. And once we pick away all those wants, oh, do we really need that? Do we really need that? What do we, if we could only have one want right now, what would that want be? And we just sit with that and we just think, I think I want $1 million. And then all of a sudden, we, give you a bunch of water and we start talking on this podcast, and I've been sipping La Croix, and I'm like, oh my God, I really want $1 million, but this is my 9th La Croix, and now I'm about to burst. Well, now my new want, I don't care about the money. I want to pee.
Yes.
And then I pee, and then all of a sudden Ty comes over, and he puts his hand over my mouth and over my nose, and it plugs it up, and I can't breathe. And then suddenly I was peeing and I wanted to pee, but now I want to breathe. I want to breathe.
Yeah.
That's what I want now. So the wants, you think you might want $1 million, but then something in your life might happen to make your wants a little bit more simple. If we live a life reducing and releasing our wants, and we have one want at a time, then we always know what we want to do. But if we have 1,000 or 1,000,000 wants inside of us, pulling us in all these different directions, we're never going to find happiness. We have to understand that every single want that we have is a contract. And it's a contract to not be happy until that want is achieved. And when we understand that, and we say, oh my God, I want $1 million, and I'm going to feel like shit every single day that I don't have $1 million in my bank account, I'm gonna be going a long time feeling like a failure.
Yes.
So meditation, again, it's releasing ourselves of all these want contracts. It's releasing ourselves of our small self-identity, and it's expanding our sense of identity into something beyond us, which is the environment we're living. First off, if we can meditate and say, my body is not myself. Myself is much bigger than the body. Myself is this experience that's happening right now. This experience that's happening, all of a sudden, the environment that I'm in becomes a part of myself. The people that are within my sphere of consciousness is a part of myself. The things beyond my consciousness and my sphere is a part of myself. So the silence and the stillness and the emptiness of outer space, which contains all of life and all things that are possible in this state of existence, is a part of myself. Then my sense of self has expanded incredibly, has expanded greatly. And now we've transcended our small self into something much larger, and all of our answers get questioned, like all of our questions get new answers to them.
Yes.
We're always talking to ourselves. We always know what needs to be said.
And you, my friend, happen to know what needs to be said by the beauty of channeling. And I feel in the depth of my being, you're answering many questions for my future self and for many other future people who have yet to lay eyes on this lovely talk video. Thank you for channeling the purity that you are, man. It's really received here.
It is a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Ty. And it's always a joy talking to you, because we get to dive so deep. We get to dive deep whenever we talk, and it's one of those things. I'm looking forward to our next meditation so we can go to some really, really cool places.
Yes, and we will. How can people practice your meditations? How can people get up with you online and maybe experience some of these profound meditations for themselves?
Yeah, so right now, the best place to find me is on Instagram. My handle is Matteya, Matteeyya. And I'm also building a TikTok with the same thing. I haven't posted yet, but I'm going to be documenting my journey into the science and the spirituality of the psychology field. And, you know, the whole process of me getting my doctorate out in Hawaii. And you're essentially going to be able to get your doctorate for free, right?
Yes.
So I'll be taking on all the student loans, so you guys don't have to.
How beautiful is that? That's almost too good to pass up.
Yeah, right. So yeah, give me a follow on Instagram. We also have Sunday. I have tons of meditations up there that people can try. They're all posted up. I try to do a community meditation every other Sunday. And I just started doing them outside because it's spring. So if you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you can come out, or anywhere in the Michigan area. I highly recommend you coming out because I'm going to be teaching outdoors for the community until August 9th when I go to Hawaii. So you do not want to miss out. Drive up and DM me on my Instagram, and we'll figure out times to go and do a really, really profound meditation. It will blow you away. And I really don't think it's even fair to call them a meditation, because they're beyond that. When people think of meditation, they think of these ideas of like, oh, imagine yourself on a beach. And that's not what we want to do in meditation. Meditation is about engaging and connecting with what is happening right now. What is this moment right now? And when we engage and connect to those things, we become a part of those things. And if we can become a part of the big things, then meditations become a very, very powerful tool in our arsenal for spiritual expansion.
And so it is. Let's make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I like to always ask this at the very tail end to give people something to look forward to. But in all of your journeying and all of your experiential knowledge and gaining and understanding, what are some of the takeaways, whether it be literature, documentaries, or philosophers in general, that you have read, studied, or witnessed that have significantly helped your stance right now? Any books that come to mind? Anything like that?
Yes. There's so many books. I think one of the best things that you can do is go on YouTube and type in Alan Watts, ALAN space WATTS. He has so many discourses and lectures on YouTube that you should just listen to for your podcasts. Like, listen to, once you dive through all of Ty's podcasts and you're just exhausted, you want to go on and listen to Alan Watts, listen to Sadhguru, Sadhguru. He's a modern guru over in India. Absolute profound wisdom. There's so many things that you can pull out. So if that is, if you learn really well through podcasts or through YouTube videos, that is something I highly recommend. Those two guys will change your entire life and perspective on things. I also recommend, tons of different books. There's so many good ones. I love The Power of Now and A New Earth, the second book. Really, really life-changing books. Bhagavad Gita is a Vedic book. For Hinduism, if people want to read about that, I think it's a profound spirituality, incredible. There is the Book of Merdad. I think is one of the wisest books that I've read. Actually, Osho had said that it is the wisest book he's ever read. I love it. The Alchemist is another fun one. I'm sure a lot of people have read that one already, though. And I'm also reading through Food of the Gods right now, which I love, by Terence McKenna. That one is incredible if you want to get through the history of how we've become such a competitive dominator culture, and how we may have lost plant medicine traditions from our past that we no longer implicate in our today's spirituality, and hopefully are growing that aspect out, which is some of the work that I'm hoping to do. So it's a really, really cool book. Yeah, there's just there's so many books,
Yes.
so many movies. It's just so many really beautiful minds. I also want to just rattle off a few more people that you should just study just as people,
Please.
because the people themselves are the most important. Like Ramana Maharishi. So this amazing Indian guru who taught like completely by silence. Om Swami is this monk down in Australia, I believe, who might be back in India now, but he's an incredible mind as well. David Nichtern is a really powerful Buddhist teacher. He's kind of going through podcasts and stuff, which is really great. And man, I know I'm forgetting some, but yeah, you'll do a lot of good if you study Alan Watson's Sadhguru. I think they are some of the best names around right now. Krishnamurti, another amazing mind. So yeah, there's a lot of information out there. It's so cool that we have access to it all. So just do some Wikipedia wormhole dives, and you'll just find so many. I like just go to like Buddhism and just start wormholing through ideas and concepts through that. Just wormhole, like pick one of the highlighted words and then pick through the highlighted word and just keep going. You'll learn so much just by going where your curiosity takes you. Kind of let your curiosity run wild and just start reading about whatever jumps out at you.
Man, I love it. Matt, dude, you're a brother to me, and I can't have enough gratitude for who and what you are doing on this go round. I can't wait to see what you do out in Hawaii and follow you on all your socials. Links to all his connects and all the books and the people that he's recommended will be listed below as always. But Matt, is there anything last minute you'd like to open up and channel to the beautiful people listening right here, right now?
Yes. Likewise, you're my brother, Ty. I just want to leave off everybody with this idea. Today, take 15 minutes to sit in silence, in stillness, and sit with some skepticism that our self, our identity that we've constructed is not as small as we think it is. It is not our human body. It is not our personality or our persona. We are life, this one life event embodied as all of it. We are one life, we are one planet living in all the earthly planet forms. And if we can meditate and reflect and say, that tree is me, that tree is me, that river is me, that sun is me, that grass is me, that bird is me, that plane noise is me, the cars are me, everything is a different version of me. We continue that over and over in our mind, profound things will happen. So try that out today and comment on this video below with what you experienced with that little meditation. It's gonna reveal some really, really cool things. And the more you do it, the greater your discoveries and insights will be. So get curious. I know beautiful things are on the way if you guys are listening to this podcast already.
Thank you, my friend. It is an honor. Cheers to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. It's always a joy talking with you, Ty.
Hey everybody, really hope you enjoyed that talk. It was beautiful to have that experience with that shared guest. We have a lot of very useful information in the description section below, so be sure to check it out. I've also linked any and all videos with that individual in the description below, so check those out as well. It's an honor to bring this footage to you, and I hope you can come back and continue to deepen your practice. Namaste.